quick like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. The phone rang at 10:47 on a Tuesday night. I was in bed, half asleep, when my cell phone lit up the dark room. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me reach for it. Maybe instinct. Maybe fate. Maybe just bad timing for everyone involved. I pressed the green button and heard a man's voice, relaxed and familiar, like he was calling an old friend. Hey babe, just got home. Tonight was amazing. I'm still thinking about you. There was a pause. Then his voice changed, uncertain now. Sarah. I sat up in bed, looked at my wife sleeping next to me, her back turned, breathing steady and deep. Then I spoke into the phone, my voice calm and clear. This isn't Sarah. This is her husband. And I think you and I need to have a conversation. My name is Marcus. I'm 34 years old, and I work as a financial analyst for an investment firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been married to Sarah for 5 years. We met at a mutual friend's wedding, one of those romantic stories people love to hear. We danced, we talked until 3 in the morning. We exchanged numbers. Within a year, we were engaged. Within 2, we were married. For the first few years, everything was good. We bought a house in a quiet neighborhood. We adopted a dog, a golden retriever named Cooper. We talked about having kids someday, maybe in a few years when our careers were more stable. We had date nights, weekend trips, and side jokes. We had what I thought was a solid marriage. But about 6 months ago, things started to shift. Nothing dramatic, just small changes that accumulated over time. Sarah started working late more often. She joined a yoga class that met 3 evenings a week. She became more protective of her phone, always keeping it face down, taking it with her even when she went to the bathroom. I noticed, but I didn't say anything. I told myself I was being paranoid, that she was just busy with work, just stressed, just going through something. I trusted her. We'd been together for 7 years. You don't throw away trust over a few late nights and a protected phone screen. But then I got that phone call. The man on the other end of the line went completely silent when I identified myself. I could hear him breathing, could almost feel his panic through the phone. Who is this? I asked, keeping my voice low so I wouldn't wake Sarah. I think I called the wrong number, he stammered. You called my wife's number. You called her babe. You said tonight was amazing. So let me ask again, who is this? He hung up, just disconnected without another word. I sat there in the dark, phone in my hand, feeling my heart pound in my chest. Next to me, Sarah shifted in her sleep but didn't wake up. I looked at her, this woman I'd been married to for 5 years, and realized I had no idea what was happening in her life. I got out of bed quietly, went downstairs to my office, and closed the door. Then I looked at my call log. The unknown number was there. I saved it to my contacts as unknown caller and sat there staring at it. I wanted to call him back. I wanted to demand answers. But I knew that would be a mistake. If I confronted him now, he'd warn Sarah. They'd get their story straight. I'd never know the truth. So instead, I did what I do best. I analyzed the situation like it was a financial problem. I needed information. I needed evidence. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with before I made any moves. I opened my laptop and logged into our cell phone account. We shared a family plan, which meant I could access both our phone records. I pulled up Sarah's call and text history for the past 3 months. What I found made my stomach turn. The unknown number appeared dozens of times. Calls, texts, all at odd hours. Late at night, after I'd gone to bed. During her lunch breaks. In the evenings when she said she was at yoga. I went back further. 6 months. 8 months. The number first appeared 7 months ago. A short call, just a few minutes. Then more calls, longer ones. Texts that increase in frequency until they were happening multiple times a day. 7 months. She'd been talking to this person for 7 months, and I'd had no idea. I wanted to throw up. I wanted to scream. I wanted to go upstairs and shake her awake and demand to know what the hell was going on. But I didn't do any of those things. I just sat there, breathing slowly, forcing myself to think clearly. If I confronted her now, she'd deny it. She'd make excuses. She'd say it was just a friend, just someone from work, just innocent conversation. And without concrete evidence of an affair, I'd look like the paranoid husband who went through her phone records and accused her based on call logs. I needed more. I needed proof of what they were doing, where they were going, how long this had been happening. I needed to know everything before I played my hand. The next morning, I acted normal. I made coffee, fed the dog, kiss Sarah goodbye when she left for work. She had no idea I'd spent half the night going through her phone records. No idea that someone had called her number by mistake and exposed whatever she'd been hiding. At work, I couldn't concentrate. I kept thinking about that phone call, about the man's voice, about how comfortable he'd sounded calling my wife babe. How many times had he called her that? How many times had they been together? During my lunch break, I called my brother. James lived in Raleigh, worked as a corporate attorney. If anyone would know how to handle this situation, it was him. I need advice, I told him. And I need to not tell anyone about this. Not mom, not dad, not your wife. No one. What's going on? I told him everything. The phone call, the records, the 7 months of contact. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Marcus, I'm sorry. That's rough. What do I do? You hire a private investigator. You document everything. And you talk to a divorce attorney. I don't even know if I want a divorce yet. Maybe not. But you need to know your options. You need to understand what you're facing legally, financially, emotionally. And you need evidence before you confront her, because if this goes to divorce, you want documentation. This feels extreme. So, is having an affair for 7 months while your husband has no idea? Look, I'm not saying jump straight to divorce. But you need to protect yourself. Get the facts first, then decide what you want to do with them. He was right. I knew he was right. So I did what he suggested. I hired a private investigator that afternoon. His name was Robert Chun, came highly recommended by one of James's colleagues. I met him at a coffee shop after work, showed him the call logs, told him about the phone call. How long do you want me on this? He asked. However long it takes to know the truth. That could be a week. Could be a month. I don't care. I need to know what's happening. He nodded. I'll start tomorrow. I'll follow her, document where she goes, who she meets. You'll have regular updates. What about the phone number? Can you find out who it belongs to? I can try. Give me a day or two. That night at home, Sarah was in a good mood. She made dinner, told me about her day, asked about mine. We watched television together on the couch. Cooper sprawled across both our laps. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed fine. Except I kept thinking about that phone call. About the man's voice. About how he'd said, tonight was amazing. Where had Sarah been last night? I tried to remember. She'd said she had yoga. Came home around 9:30. Had she really been at yoga? Or had she been with him? I wanted to ask. The words were right there, pushing against my teeth. But I swallowed them down and smiled when she laughed at something on the TV. Robert called me 2 days later. I have a name for the number. It belongs to a guy named Trevor Mitchell. 32 years old. Works as a sales manager for a tech company downtown. Single. No kids. Lives in an apartment in Dilworth. Do you have a photo? I'll email you one. The photo arrived 5 minutes later. Trevor Mitchell was tall, athletic build, dark hair styled carefully. He looked like the kind of guy who spent time at the gym and knew it. The kind of guy women noticed. I stared at his photo and felt something cold settle in my chest. This was real. This wasn't paranoia or misunderstanding. My wife was involved with someone, and now I knew his name and his face. What do you want me to do? Robert asked. Follow both of them. I want to know where they go, when they meet, everything. You got it. Over the next week, Robert sent me regular updates. Photos of Sarah's car parked outside Trevor's apartment building. Photos of them having lunch together at restaurants across town. Photos of them walking into a hotel on a Thursday afternoon, not coming out for 3 hours. Each photo was like a knife. Clean, sharp, precise. There was no ambiguity, no room for innocent explanations. My wife was having an affair, and she'd been having it for 7 months. The hotel photos were the worst. Seeing her walk into that building with him, seeing them come out hours later looking relaxed and happy, it destroyed something in me. Some fundamental belief that the person I'd married was who I thought she was. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more time to process, to plan, to figure out what I wanted to do with this information. I met with a divorce attorney. Her name was Patricia Summers, mid-40s, sharp and professional. She reviewed the evidence Robert had collected, looked at our financial situation, our assets, our property. North Carolina is one of the few states where you can sue for alienation of affection, she told me. If you can prove this Trevor Mitchell knowingly interfered with your marriage, you could potentially recover damages from him. I don't care about damages. I just want out. Understood. But you should know your options. With this level of documentation, we can file for divorce on grounds of adultery. That could affect asset division, alimony, everything. What about the house? Both your names are on the deed. You'll either need to buy her out or sell it and split the proceeds. Same with retirement accounts, savings, investments. North Carolina is an equitable distribution state, which means things get divided fairly, not necessarily 50-50. I spent an hour with Patricia going through scenarios, understanding what divorce would look like. By the time I left her office, I felt numb. This was really happening. My marriage was ending, and I was sitting in a lawyer's office discussing asset division like it was a business transaction. That night, Sarah noticed I was quiet. We were having dinner, and she kept looking at me with concern. "You okay?" she asked. "You've seemed distant lately." The irony of that statement almost made me laugh. She was asking if I was okay while carrying on a 7-month affair. "Just work stress," I said. "Big project deadline coming up. Is there anything I can do to help?" "No. I just need to get through the next few weeks." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm here if you need to talk." I looked at her hand on mine, looked at her concerned face, and felt nothing but contempt. She was still lying, still pretending, still playing the role of caring wife while sneaking around behind my back. "I know," I said, and pulled my hand away to reach for my water glass. 2 weeks after that first phone call, I had a folder full of evidence. Photos, phone records, credit card statements showing charges at hotels and restaurants. Robert had documented everything thoroughly, professionally. I knew where Trevor lived, where he worked, what kind of car he drove. I knew his schedule, his habits, his routine. And I knew that Sarah saw him at least 3 times a week, sometimes more. I'd also learned something else. Sarah had been lying about her yoga classes. There was no yoga class. She'd made it up as cover for seeing Trevor. On Tuesday and Thursday evenings when she said she was doing downward dog, she was actually at his apartment or meeting him for dinner. The level of deception was staggering. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. This was a calculated, sustained lie that she'd maintained for months. I decided it was time to confront them both. On a Thursday evening, when Sarah said she was going to yoga, I followed her. Not in my car. I hired Robert to do it. He texted me updates as she drove, confirming what I already knew. She went straight to Trevor's apartment building, parked, and went inside. I waited 30 minutes. Then I drove to Trevor's building myself. I'd gotten his apartment number from Robert. 3rd floor, Unit 3C. I took the elevator up, walked down the hallway, and knocked on the door. I heard movement inside. Voices. The door opened, and Trevor Mitchell stood there, looking relaxed in jeans and a t-shirt. His expression went from casual to confused when he saw me. "Can I help you?" "I'm Marcus, Sarah's husband." His face went white. Behind him, I could see into the apartment. Sarah was on the couch, wine glass in hand. When she saw me, she froze. "I think we need to have a conversation," I said. "All 3 of us." Trevor tried to close the door. I put my hand against it, not forcing it, just holding it open. "You can either talk to me now, or you can talk to my attorney and the private investigator who's been documenting your affair for the past 2 weeks. Your choice." He stepped back. I walked in. Sarah had stood up from the couch, her face a mixture of shock and panic. "Marcus, what are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" "Sarah, what are you doing here?" "This is supposed to be your yoga class." "I can explain. You've been having an affair with Trevor for 7 months. You've lied about yoga classes, work meetings, girls' nights. You've met him at hotels, at his apartment, at restaurants all over Charlotte. I have documentation of all of it. So please explain. I'd love to hear what possible explanation you have." She sat down heavily on the couch. Trevor stood frozen near the kitchen, looking like he wanted to disappear. I turned to him. "How long have you known she was married?" He didn't answer. "Trevor, how long have you known?" "From the beginning," he said quietly. "From the beginning. So 7 months ago, you met a married woman and decided to start an affair with her. It wasn't like that. What was it like? Help me understand. Because from where I'm standing, you knowingly pursued a relationship with someone else's wife." Sarah found her voice. "Marcus, please. Let's talk about this at home. Not here." "Why not here?" "This is where you spend your Tuesday and Thursday evenings. This is where you've been coming instead of yoga. Seems like the appropriate place for this conversation." "I never meant for this to happen," she said, tears starting to fall. It just happened." Things don't just happen, Sarah. You made choices. Every time you texted him, every time you met him, every time you lied to me. Those were choices. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked at her crying on Trevor's couch and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness. Just a cold, clear certainty that this marriage was over. How did you find out? Trevor asked suddenly. I turned to him. You called me. 2 weeks ago, Tuesday night, around 10:47. You meant to call Sarah, but you hit my number by mistake. You said, "Hey babe, tonight was amazing." Remember that? His eyes widened. That was you. That was me. My wife was asleep next to me, and her boyfriend called to tell her what a great time he'd had. So thanks for that. Made everything much easier. Sarah looked at Trevor with something like horror. You called Marcus? It was an accident. I must have hit the wrong contact. You have his number in your phone. I asked her. What's it saved as? Yoga instructor? Work friend? She didn't answer. I pulled out my phone and opened a folder where I'd saved all of Robert's photos. I held it up so they could both see. I hired a private investigator. I have photos of you two together. I have hotel receipts. I have phone records. I have everything I need for a divorce on grounds of adultery. Marcus, please. I've already filed the papers. Sarah, you'll be served tomorrow morning at work. I wanted to give you one chance to come clean, to tell me the truth yourself. But you couldn't even do that. So I'm doing it for you. I looked at Trevor. I'm also filing a lawsuit against you for alienation of affection. In North Carolina, that's a real thing. You knowingly interfered with my marriage, and I'm going to make sure you pay for it. You can't sue me for... I can, and I am. My attorney already has the paperwork ready. You'll be served next week. I turned back to Sarah. I'll be staying at a hotel tonight. Tomorrow, I want you out of the house. You can go stay with your parents, stay with a friend, stay here with Trevor for all I care. But you're not sleeping under my roof anymore. Marcus, we can fix this. We can go to counseling. There's nothing to fix. You made your choice 7 months ago. Now you get to live with it. I walked to the door. Before I left, I turned back one more time. By the way, Trevor, when you called me that night and then hung up, you should have apologized. You should have explained. You should have done the right thing. But you just hung up and hoped I'd go away. That was your second mistake. The first was sleeping with my wife. I left the apartment and took the elevator down. My hands were shaking, adrenaline coursing through my system. But underneath the shaking was a sense of clarity I hadn't felt in weeks. I'd done it. I confronted them. I told them I knew. And now there was no going back. Sarah called me 17 times that night. I didn't answer. She sent texts, long paragraphs of apologies and explanations and promises. I read them once, then muted the conversation. The next morning, a process server went to Sarah's office and delivered the divorce papers. My attorney called me at noon to confirm it was done. How do you feel? Patricia asked. Relieved, I said, and I meant it. Sarah tried to fight the divorce initially. Her attorney argued that we should try counseling, that one mistake shouldn't end a 5-year marriage. But the evidence was overwhelming. 7 months of documented infidelity wasn't one mistake. The lawsuit against Trevor was harder. His attorney argued that alienation of affection cases were outdated and shouldn't be enforced. But North Carolina law was clear, and we had proof he'd knowingly pursued a relationship with a married woman. We settled out of court. Trevor paid me $75,000 to make the lawsuit go away. It didn't undo the affair, but it felt like something. Like he'd at least acknowledged what he'd done had consequences. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. We sold the house, split the proceeds, divided our savings, our retirement accounts, our possessions. Sarah got to keep Cooper because she was the one who'd pushed for getting a dog in the first place. That hurt more than I expected. I moved into a smaller place, a condo near uptown Charlotte. Started going to the gym, reconnecting with friends I'd lost touch with. My brother came to visit once a month, helped me repaint the condo, set up furniture, start over. I dated occasionally, nothing serious. I wasn't ready for serious. But it was good to remember what it felt like to be with someone who was honest, who didn't have a secret phone full of texts to someone else. A year after that phone call, I ran into Sarah at a coffee shop. She was with Trevor. They saw me at the same time I saw them. There was a long, awkward moment where nobody knew what to do. Then Sarah approached me. Trevor stayed back, looking uncomfortable. Hi, she said. Hi, how are you? Good. You? Good. We're good. She glanced back at Trevor. We're actually engaged. I looked at her left hand. There was a ring there. Small diamond. Nothing like the one I'd given her. Congratulations, I said, and I meant it. Not because I was happy for them, but because it confirmed I'd made the right choice. She'd moved on with the person she'd cheated with, which meant the affair hadn't been a mistake or a moment of weakness. It had been a choice. A deliberate choice to leave our marriage for someone else. I'm sorry, she said. For everything. For how it happened. For the lying. For all of it. I appreciate that. Are you seeing anyone? That's not really your business anymore. She nodded. You're right. I hope you're happy. I am. Happier than I was. She flinched at that, but didn't argue. Because she knew it was true. Our last year of marriage had been a lie, and we'd both known it, even if only one of us had been willing to admit it. Trevor came over then, put his hand on Sarah's back. We should go. I looked at him. Take care of her. You destroyed my marriage to be with her. Make sure it was worth it. He didn't respond. Just guided Sarah toward the exit. I watched them leave, then turned back to my coffee. I didn't feel angry. Didn't feel sad. Just felt done. That phone call, that accidental dial at 10:47 on a Tuesday night, had been the best mistake Trevor Mitchell ever made. Because it gave me the truth. It gave me evidence. It gave me a way out of marriage that had already ended, even if I hadn't known it yet. Sarah had made her choice. Trevor had made his choice. And I'd made mine. I chose honesty. I chose self-respect. I chose to walk away from people who didn't value me enough to tell me the truth. And that choice, unlike theirs, was one I'd never regret. 2 years later, I'm remarried. Her name is Jennifer, and she's nothing like Sarah. She's direct, honest, doesn't play games. When I told her about my first marriage, about the affair, about how it ended, she listened without judgment. That must have been hard, she said. It was. But it taught me what I need in a relationship. Honesty, respect, transparency, non-negotiables. Good. Because that's what you're getting. And she meant it. We've been together for 18 months, married for 6. I trust her completely because she's given me no reason not to. She keeps her phone unlocked, tells me where she's going, includes me in her life. Not because I asked her to. Because that's what partners do when they respect each other. I heard through mutual friends that Sarah and Trevor got married about 6 months after I ran into them at the coffee shop. They're still together, as far as I know. I don't check. I don't care. That part of my life is over. Filed away in memory, like a closed case file. It happened. I learned from it. I moved on. Sometimes people ask me if I ever think about what would have happened if Trevor hadn't made that phone call. If I'd never found out about the affair. If Sarah and I just kept going, oblivious. The answer is yes. I think about it. And I'm grateful it didn't go that way. Because living a lie is worse than knowing the truth. Even when the truth hurts. Trevor Mitchell called me by mistake. He didn't know I existed. My wife had kept me compartmentalized, separate from her affair, never mentioning a husband to the man she was sleeping with. That phone call exposed everything. And in doing so, it freed me. So in a weird way, I'm grateful to Trevor. Not for sleeping with my wife, but for being careless enough to dial the wrong number. For giving me the evidence I needed. For making it impossible for Sarah to keep lying. That one phone call changed everything. And I'm a better man for it. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. That phone call was both. And I wouldn't change a thing.